The sound of the wind rustling through the tall bamboo trees was the only voice in the valley that morning. The sun had barely risen, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, when Ayaka Tanaka, a quiet woman with gentle eyes and a heart full of dreams, stood at the edge of the narrow path leading out of her small town. She looked down at the letter in her hand, her last paycheck. She had just lost her job. "This must be the end," she whispered to herself. But I guess she did not yet know that this ending was also the beginning. Ayaka was 32 years old, with hair that she tied in a simple bun every morning and hands that carried both softness and calluses. For years she had worked as an office assistant in a crowded building in Tokyo. The job was not her passion, but it kept food on the table, and in a world where bills stacked higher than dreams, that was enough. Or so she thought. Her boss had called her into the office just 2 days ago. His words were cold and sharp, like knives cutting through the air. "We're downsizing. I'm sorry, Tanaka-san, but your position is no longer needed." Ayaka had bowed politely, holding her dignity the way her grandmother had taught her. But inside she felt her chest burning. How could she survive? How could she pay rent? How would she face her family, who always said stability was the only safe path? On the train ride home, her tears fell silently, mingling with the sounds of announcements and the chatter of strangers. That night, she sat alone in her tiny apartment with tatami mats and paper lanterns. She thought of her grandmother's stories, the old parables she had once rolled her eyes at, but now she clung to them like threads of light in the dark. Her grandmother had often told her of a Taoist tale. A farmer lost his horse. The neighbors said it was terrible. The farmer only said, "Maybe." Then the horse returned with more horses. The neighbors said it was good fortune. The farmer only said, "Maybe." His son broke his leg riding one of the horses. The neighbors said it was bad luck. The farmer said, "Maybe." When the army came to draft young men, the son was spared because of his leg. The farmer said again, "Maybe." "Good or bad," her grandmother would say, sipping tea slowly. "Time will tell." Ayaka remembered these words now. But remembering was easy, believing was harder. The next morning, Ayaka woke up with no alarm clock, no office clothes waiting on a hanger, and no rush to catch the train. She sat by her low wooden table, staring at her cup of green tea, and felt a strange emptiness. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend May. "I heard about your job. I'm so sorry, Ayaka. Maybe this is a sign." "A sign of what?" Ayaka muttered. "A sign that my life is falling apart." Still, something about May's words lingered. That afternoon, with nowhere to go, she wandered through the marketplace in her neighborhood. The smell of grilled fish and sweet mochi filled the air. She watched the vendors, old men selling vegetables, women arranging handmade crafts, children running and laughing around the stalls. Then her eyes caught something small and unexpected. A little shop tucked in the corner, selling traditional Japanese ceramics, bowls, plates, teacups painted with cranes and cherry blossoms. She stepped inside. An elderly woman with silver hair greeted her warmly. "Welcome, young one. See anything you like?" Ayaka ran her fingers over a tea bowl, with golden cracks running through it. "What happened to this one?" she asked. The old woman smiled. "Ah, that is kintsugi. We repair broken pottery with gold. The cracks are not hidden, but honored. They make the piece more beautiful, more valuable. Like life, don't you think?" Ayaka felt her throat tighten. Something inside her stirred. The days passed. Weeks passed. Ayaka still had no job. The money in her bank account shrank like ice melting under the sun. Her parents called her every day, urging her to find something stable. But instead of rushing into panic, Ayaka found herself drawn back to the market again and again. She spent hours watching the craftspeople. She began sketching in her notebook, doodles of bowls and teacups, imagining patterns, colors, designs. One afternoon, May visited and saw the drawings. "Why don't you try making them?" May asked. Ayaka laughed. "Me? I've never made pottery before. I'm not an artist." May tilted her head. "Maybe. Or maybe you just haven't tried yet. The word maybe struck Ayaka's heart like a bell ringing in a silent temple. With hesitation but also a strange excitement, Ayaka signed up for a pottery class in a nearby town. The first time she touched the clay, she felt awkward and clumsy. Her bowl wobbled, her cup collapsed. She almost gave up. But then she remembered the kintsugi bowl. Even broken things can be beautiful. She tried again and again. Day after day, her hands learned the rhythm of the wheel, the patience of shaping clay, the fire of the kiln. She began to feel alive again. One night, after finishing a small teacup glazed in soft blue, she held it in her hands and whispered, "Maybe losing my job wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning." Months passed. Ayaka turned her tiny apartment into a studio. Bowls lined the shelves, plates stacked on the floor. She experimented with kintsugi, repairing cracked pieces with shimmering gold. She gave some away as gifts. People loved them. Then May made a suggestion that changed everything. "You should sell these at the market." Ayaka's heart raced. What if no one buys them? What if people laugh? May smiled. And what if they love them? So Ayaka gathered her courage. One Saturday morning, she set up a stall with her name written on a simple wooden sign, Ayaka's Kintsugi Creations. At first, people only glanced, but then one woman stopped, picked up a golden cracked bowl and said, "This is beautiful. It reminds me of my own scars." Ayaka's eyes widened. She sold her first piece, then another, and another. By the end of the day, her table was nearly empty. From then on, Ayaka's stall became a familiar sight at the market. Her story, losing her job, finding her art, spread quietly, like ripples in a pond. People came not just to buy pottery, but to talk, to share their own brokenness, to find beauty in their scars. Ayaka listened, encouraged, and created. Her little business grew. She rented a small shop space. She hired 2 helpers. She renamed the shop the Golden Path, inspired by the cracks filled with gold. Her parents, who were once worried and scolded at every given opportunity, now visited proudly, drinking tea from her cups. Years later, as she stood in her thriving shop, Ayaka thought back to that day she lost her job. She smiled softly. "What felt like a disaster," she whispered, "was really a door." And she remembered her grandmother's words, "Good or bad, time will tell." Life lessons in Ayaka's journey. 1. What looks like the end is often the beginning. Sometimes life pushes us off one path so we can find another. 2. Embrace brokenness. Like the kintsugi pottery, our scars and failures make us more unique and valuable. 3. Do not rush to judge events. Good or bad fortune can only be seen over time. 4. Listen to the whispers of opportunity. A hobby, a curiosity, a spark. These small things may grow to shape your destiny. 5. Courage is found in small steps. Just like Ayaka, she didn't leap into success. She stumbled, learned, and grew. And you may be wondering what next. Well, the wind still rustles through the bamboo, the sky still paints itself each morning. And somewhere in a quiet shop in Tokyo, the golden cracks of a pottery shimmering in the light, reminding every visitor, maybe today's loss is tomorrow's gift. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories filled with wisdom, life lessons, and hope. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next story. And remember, every ending is often the beginning of something great. Bye.